everybody. My name is Carmen Trujillo. I'm the creator of the Virtual Forgiveness Week by My Healing Choice. The first edition was in 2020. Now it's the second edition. And this year will be a little bit different. All the interviews are going to be less, but all the interviews are going to be in YouTube. So for everybody to see, and they're going to stay there for everybody to see. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is JoAnn Tipping. She's a certified breath worker and a radical forgiveness practitioner who co-facilitated workshops with her husband, Colin Tipping. With a passion for women's issues, she had led transformational workshops that help women develop their creativity and intuition. In 1992, JoAnn, along with her husband, created a series of healing retreats in the North Georgia mountains for people with cancer. After jointly running the retreat from 1993 to 1997, they developed a new practice which was to become radical forgiveness. JoAnn and her husband were co-founders of the Georgia Cancer Help Program, Together We Heal, and the Institute for Radical Forgiveness Therapy and Coaching. With their Institute for Radical Forgiveness Therapy and Coaching, JoAnn Tipping and Colin training coaches and practitioners throughout the United States and many countries around the world, including Australia, Germany, Poland, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, the Czech Republic, Finland, and Spain, Ireland, Peru, and I was trained in Atlanta. I'm from Venezuela. So I have the opportunity to be trained by you guys in person in a very small group, and it was one of the best experiences. So welcome, JoAnn. Thank you for allowing me this pleasure to interview you.
I'm glad you asked. Yes, glad to be.
So I want to start by you telling us a little bit about your story and yours and Colin's story prior to the radical forgiveness. Like prior to this, what you were doing, what were your beliefs, or what you studied before this?
Well, Colin was a teacher in London University, and he decided to come to America and help a friend who was writing a book on woodworking, or a whole series of books. And so this man helped bring him to America. And so they wrote one book, and Colin decided he'd become a real estate agent. And he wasn't very good at it. He really enjoyed writing books more. But then we met. He had just done his first forgiveness group. He had done his very first workshop, and it was a small group, and it wasn't radical forgiveness. He was just kind of testing the waters around forgiveness. And for me, I had studied the Course in Miracles for 2 years with a small group. And so when we met, we just started talking about forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And I had been an interior designer, and I had wanted to become an artist, and I was kind of involved in the healing arts, in that I had done the breathwork training by then. And so I was looking at ways in which I could use the healing arts that I'd learned and loved so much. So we started doing cancer retreats after we got married. And then in 1992, we watched a show about Commonweal, which was a cancer retreat center in California. And it was put on by Bill Moyers. And it was the most touching. It was like a documentary of about three weeks in a row. And we just sat and watched it. And at the end, we cried and said, oh, we need to create something like a cancer retreat on this side of the country, in the East. And so he thought about the workshop that he had done up in the mountains. And so we had a location, and I started taking classes in art therapy and trance dance and different other healing arts. And he put together these cancer retreats.
I
And
have
so
to say,
that's,
I have to say that when I read that in the book, because that's my passion, work with cancer patients. That's my dream, to do something like that. So when I read that, I said, whoa, this is another thing that that draw me into this work. And I was so happy that you told the story about that. Sorry
yes,
to interrupt you.
the cancer work is what started it all. And we were both terribly afraid because, we weren't doctors. We didn't really know about the medical part of it. I mean, we learned about the food you should eat, and we had people come in and talk to them about the things that we didn't know about, but we did know about the emotional aspects of people. And that's where we felt like we could make a difference, is in their emotional, either coming to terms with their death or coming to terms and finding hope in the future and ways of keeping themselves wanting to continue to live and finding ways to do that.
Beautiful. So then what do you found there?
So after working from 1993, we found how important forgiveness was to the healing aspects of whatever you have, no matter what it is. Forgiveness is just a real key to moving forward to a joyous life. Mm-hmm. And so in 1997, he started writing the book, and it was published in 1998. Mm-hmm. And then we started doing workshops, and it blew us away what happened after that. People actually bought the books and read them.
Yes, it's true. So do you remember any story in those retreats, that anything or any story in those retreats that you say, wow, like we knew, but we didn't know, we knew that it's something there, but we didn't know to how important it was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
I understand it. I can tell, I hear it, but when you see something, you say, okay, yes, this is.
Yeah. Okay. So at our very first retreat, we had a female doctor and her husband, who was also a doctor, and we didn't realize that they were doctors until the day that they arrived, and we really were both kind of like, oh shit,
Oh,
what have we gotten ourselves into? Here we have two doctors, and one was, the man was supporting his wife, and so we just decided, well, we've planned it, we're going to do what we do, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, it's our first one, all we can do is just do what we can do. So the husband really enjoyed the artwork. We had them do mandalas and things from their right brain every day. We integrated the artwork, and he was absolutely blown away, and by the artwork and by the breath work and by really understanding that he needed to come and heal just as much as his wife did, who had the breast cancer. And so it changed his practice. Rather than sitting, when people came into his office, rather than sitting across the desk from them, he'd pull up a chair next to him and just talk to him, for a little bit first. Yeah. And just one-on-one and being a person with him. And he started doing artwork with their little girl, at night or on weekends. They do painting sessions together. So, that kind of blew us away. And his wife healed, and she went on to talk about the emotional aspects of healing. And so they were just, they were really,
oh, what beautiful.
loved the work and talked about it often.
It's beautiful, and it's it probably was scary, but was one of the best things that can happen to you guys, because having a doctor and a wife and living the thing, it would be like, okay, this is it. The doctor said, the doctor said the word. I know what I mean, because I work with, I'm a physical therapist, so I work with cancer patients. I do lymphedema treatment and stuff like that, and I work with doctors too. So I know that sometimes it's so hard that they don't connect that part.
Right.
And sometimes I'm the one that talk to them, even though I have to be a physical therapist. I spend time with them. I talk, and and you can see, like, they sometimes they feel they think that I'm the nurse or the doctor. I'm not the doctor, but I talk. Sometimes it's nice when you hear, like, you help me, no more than them, but it's in a different way, something that they need, and that part is beautiful. So then he wrote a book. Where did the name come from? Because I know that name, I hear many stories. Like I said when we were talking, when I did my my certification, we asked him, and he said that part of it was that they have, the forgiveness was a softer word, and they need something to make it easier reception for the public. They need something more like masculine, more a stronger word. So that's one thing that I hear. And then I hear about the root, that everything is from the radical. It has to do with the root of the. So you are next to him, so you know better than anybody where the name come from.
Right. Well, the name was really important to Colin, and he played with it for a long time. And, we'd talk about it. We had this long list of different names, and we just kept coming back to radical forgiveness. And, he would go into his left brain, the root of it meaning this, and that was beautiful. And then I would say my part, which is, well, it's the dichotomy. One is hard, radical. I mean, it's like, it's radical, but that explains it in a way, and it's forgiveness. And so it's the male, the yin and the yang coming together and creating more than the separate parts. And so we both just agreed that was going to be the name.
Beautiful name. Yes, and I told you the story about, like, when I did the summit last year. It was because I hear somebody talking about the feminine and the masculine and this and that. It was kind of like an aha moment that I understood that a forgiveness is when those energies are in balance. That's
right.
They're in balance, and when you do forgiveness, it's like boom, they're in balance. So it was like, now I got it. Maybe it's the name, I don't know, whatever. But it's funny because sometimes things come, you don't know why or how, but everything is like, okay, like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Like everything has something to do. But I like to for you to tell us the story, that way we know better. So the other thing is that the worksheet, where did that worksheet come from?
Well, Colin, before I met him, went to one of Michael Rice's lectures, and Michael Rice handed out these worksheets, and Colin took one home and he showed it to me, and I kind of looked at it, and it was really complicated. And Colin said, I think I can make this easier. And so he came up with his version and sent it off to Michael, hoping that they could, have a conversation about it and something would happen, and maybe Michael would consider using parts of it or all of it or whatever. Anyway, he just sent it off to him, never heard back. And so he thought, well, it's a good worksheet. I think I'll try using it and see how it works, see if it works. And it worked.
Yeah.
So at one point, he and Michael did come together and talk about it, but it was probably 15 years after Colin had kind of made his into, the book world and all that, and the workshops. And, I think that was a fairly serious conversation, but I think it landed lightly at the end. And I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure. But I think they both had a good laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I use the as long as you go through the stages, and everybody learn, and you can create stuff, different stuff, and given the I to be honest, I create something different, because sometimes when I start teaching in Spanish, it was taking me so long to explain it. I don't know if it's the translation, I don't know. It was taking me too much time for them to understand. So I changed some stuff in my way to understand, keeping the rule. I mean, I'm not gonna,
right,
I'm not gonna invent the wheel. That's there. But given that, of course, I'm a radical forgiveness practitioner. He teach me. So I think it's just not and the idea is that for everybody to learn, to teach. I mean, everybody that teach
they have their own way. Yes,
have their own way to go around the stuff, and you learn different things, and you add here and there and make your own thing, which is beautiful, I think.
Yes.
So, okay, now I want you to take us to what is radical forgiveness, and then to the stages. What is the meaning of the radical forgiveness? I mean, I know, but you say it better than me.
I'm not sure. I haven't been teaching it recently. So we'll see.
Okay, let's see.
So for me, the shortest way to explain it is that things that happen in your life, you are a co-creator, and they don't happen to you, but they happen for you. And through radical forgiveness, you can really shift the energy around something when you see that you're not a victim any longer, that it's part of something that your soul wanted, and perhaps it's essential to your growth and your life and what your contract, if you believe in contracts, which I do, that there are soul contracts, and that you come in and different lessons are to be learned.
Okay. Yeah. So I invite Michael Rice. I also invite somebody that is very deep into the Course of Miracles, and you learn about Course of Miracles. And I hear one time in the chat that we have that what is for you that have studied both things, that what could be a difference that you see in both?
Okay, well, it could be just my group that I studied with for the 2 years in the Course in Miracles. But to me, it was more of a mental understanding, and a philosophy that you brought into your life and that you were to practice, yes. But with radical forgiveness, we incorporate more of the body. I mean, in workshops and things that we did, we would get people to dance, to use their hands, to I mean, it involved even doing the worksheet, it's more kinesthetic because you're writing. Even if you're on the computer, your hands are still moving, and that connection to the mind and the body is brought together and fused in a different way that the Course didn't really address, in my experience.
Absolutely.
And in different groups, it could be different. But
the other thing that I think that you mentioned, or I don't know, somebody in the group, and I see it that way because I went to, it's the part of the ego, the way that, and maybe it's when they talk about the ego, or maybe it's the interpretation of the groups that you are. So
Yeah.
and I love how Colin see it. You know, I always say, like, you have to forgive it. You have to just work with it.
Embrace it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You bring me out to here. Now is my time. Now is my turn. I take it from here. I have a question as a coach, as a forgiveness teacher, which is tough. It's beautiful, but it's kind of hard to get to people sometimes. So since you and Colin travel and teach and everything, how you would tell us how to spread the word easier, or I wanna, now is very, I don't know if you watch whatever the same I think, but now is the trauma work is trending, but trauma, everything's trauma. And then, to me, personal, the word with it is forgiveness work. But if you mention forgiveness, it's not trending. It's trauma is trending now. So I like Colin said, I want to make forgiveness trending, a trending topic. How we can make that happen?
Yeah, it's definitely what the world needs, but it doesn't know that it needs it. And that's a bit sad, because there is such opposition, out there, and I think it just has to be brought in to the personal level, and it is a challenge. The word forgiveness itself, people don't understand it, and they think, well, I don't need that. I've done all my forgiveness work. I'm good. But then you see them get upset on the phone, or you see them, cuss somebody out, and you go, well, wait a minute. Life doesn't have to be like that. With forgiveness, there is a different way that you can approach these things that is much more peaceful, harmonious, and healthy. So if you'd like me to help you find some healthy ways to overcome some obstacles that you may be facing right now, give it a try and let's see what happens.
I don't know how to say this.
How do you attract people
to your work? Attract people? Yes, how you attract, because the other, if you work with somebody that do marketing, if the forgiveness is no, it's no. I don't care. I want to I'm not gonna change the name. It's forgiveness. It's forgiveness. So how you attract the people? You attracted like with the forgiveness, or you attracted through the pain? Like, because you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think people, okay, we realized after doing the work for several years that young people had not experienced enough pain in their lives. So 20-year-olds weren't really, we couldn't market it to 20-year-olds. And we found that our market was people that had experienced enough pain, enough disappointment, that they were starting to ask themselves questions like, why am I here? What's this all about? And why can't I heal? And when they start asking those questions, then they're open to the answers. Yeah. Because in your early years, you're just taking on the world and trying to find out who you are. But in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, you start asking yourself deeper questions. Yeah. And you start having disappointments, divorces, bankruptcies. You start having those pains that life is going to have for everybody. And everybody has some sort of pain or is going through something. So it takes a certain amount of self-reflection and self-awareness to be open to hearing the answers. So I think part of it is knowing who you're marketing to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The people that have had enough pain in their lives that they're looking for answers. Is that,
I realize Absolutely, absolutely. But I wanted to be help for the coaches too. I realized that after the summit, the people that came and participate and everything were people like 40 up and really up.
Yeah, yeah,
Really
yeah.
up.
They've held on to their pain.
Like
Yes.
really, I get people like 75, 80 something, and wow, you say like, I understand the 40s, but and it's tough. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That it's true. I saw it. I see the so it's more because this is gonna be, I'm gonna uh, share it with the people, the coaches. I want them to know this too. How you get to people that are really, really, really in pain, like those situations, like the Holocaust survivors or 9/11 people, or how you get to them. How, yeah.
I think you have to listen a lot. Listen a lot. And Colin would always say, listen for the numbers that are coming up again and again. Look for the names that are coming up again and again. Look for oddities, what's odd in the story. And so it's really about listening to the person and having them feel like you're really understanding where they are and you get it. And so I would say a good 80% is just listening.
Yeah.
And making it all okay.
Yes,
They're yeah. So holding that space of the perfection of what is going on in anybody's life, if you can help them see the perfection in it, that it's their soul's journey, and that this is the right road. You're doing it all right. May not look like it, may not feel like it, but with perspective and radical forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
How the ceremony, the radical forgiveness ceremony, the beautiful radical forgiveness ceremony came about?
Okay. Well, a friend of ours, in a training that she was doing, had been shown by a Native American Indian, and I don't know from what what his title or anything else was, but he said that in Native American tradition they dealt in circles, and that after somebody had come with a complaint and complained about it twice, after they complained about it for a third time, everyone in the circle would simply turn their back on the person. 3 times, that's enough. We don't want to hear any more about it.
Yeah.
And with this understanding, this particular person had come up where you actually walk across the circle and say, I'm sorry that happened to you. And so then the questions were not as many as we had. Once again, we saw that this was a way that could be used in radical forgiveness, and asking as many questions that would produce pain that we could think of. Mm-hmm. So it was basically our list from a much shorter list of things. And we just kind of added radical forgiveness tilt onto it, and it kept growing till it was what it was.
I think that this year we can add about the COVID, I just hear you talking, and I think that this year we can add about the suffering and the pain and that we experienced with COVID. So I was talking yesterday in an interview about the COVID and all the suffering. Some people lose family, some people, all that can be another question that we can add to that.
That's what's so wonderful about the ceremony is you can actually, segment it into a group of people that you're working with. It could be a group of bisexuals, or it could be, people that have had cancer, or it could be people that have lived through COVID, and there's a bunch of different questions that you can come up with. So
I remember that
I think it's always evolving.
Yes,
always evolving.
I did one, and at the end, because we were all immigrants.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that question wasn't there, or something like that. I added at the end because I realized that a lot of people. I mean, I was there. It was my first one, and there was another Venezuelan lady, and then I add that one. So it was beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So things evolve, and Colin was very good about going with the flow.
Yeah. And go with the flow. I'm gonna tell you one story short. I have one course in by Zoom, and only 2 people, and a friend of a friend of the mother of one of my friends came, and I was like, oh God, what I'm gonna do here? Not for the ceremony, for a regular radical forgiveness. What I'm gonna do? I don't want to do this. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna cancel. Blah, 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 blah. But at the end, I said, you know what? If they're here, it's gonna be perfect. I'm telling you, it was one of the best experience I ever had. Because they became the grandkids of the mother. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. It was perfect. So after that, I said, I don't care. One person is whoever came. That's it. I learned that one.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. Yes. So, well, to end, I want to ask you, what are you doing these days? Are you doing anything related to this? What are you doing?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to keep Colin's publishing business going, and so that has me reading a lot of files to know what the publishing business is, because I don't really know. It was not my thing in what we produced, but so I'm doing that, and I'm trying to stay in touch with folks. And it's been hard during COVID. I mean, it's just it's a different energy to work with, for sure, and
yeah, it is.
Learning how to cope with it all.
Now that you mentioned the publishing thing, how about the game? It's gonna be more games or no more games?
I don't know.
The other day I was playing with my husband. It was great.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
Well, Joann, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to interview you. And it was an honor and a pleasure. And this is going to be in YouTube. Everybody's going to know about Colin and radical forgiveness, and we're going to keep working on it.
Well, thank you, dear, for all your time and effort and everything you're putting into it. So thank you.
Thank you.